I am absolutely delighted, as always, to be welcoming you all to another episode of Vina Talks ND Life, where ND stands for neurodivergence. As part of our campaign at GAIN, the Group for Autism, Insurance, Investment and Neurodiversity, we are doing, did I say the campaign? Yes, the campaign, which is hashtag Count Me In. We essentially want to highlight the examples, the scenarios, the life experiences whereby people left out, felt the need to scream out, please count me in, please make me feel included, make me visible, make me engaged. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Carla. Carla will be introducing herself in a split second. And perhaps before I pass on the baton, which I should be doing it pretty swiftly, I'd like to remind us all that as of this season's new series of Vina Talks ND Life, we're also trying to implement a call to action. So do wait for those moments of golden opportunities for tangible small steps where we can all take action to facilitate this engagement of us all in the workplace. So Carla, without further ado, who are you? Give us an intro.
Who am I? So hi everybody. My name is Carla Henison. My pronouns are she, her. And for the avoidance of doubt, if anyone is visually impaired, I'm a white woman. I'm currently very cold, sitting in Glasgow in Scotland. So I've got a beanie hat on with big soundproof headphones, and I have got a kind of olive green kind of dress on, but you can just see the top, and oversized clear reading glasses. I am a single mum, and my day job is DEI business partner at a firm called Hymans Robertson, and I also started up and until very recently led the Neurodiversity Network group there too.
There we go. I unmuted myself. Absolutely amazing. And what a great sort of way to open this 22nd, I believe, episode of Vina Talks ND Life, where you gave people the opportunity to really feel included and you described yourself. I've never done that. And I always admire it when I see it. And LinkedIn nowadays has implemented this opportunity whereby we describe a photo, right, for the people who are visually impaired. So I will be taking a leaf out of your book, Carla, and do exactly that when I go forward on the next sort of recording. So thank you very, very much.
Okay.
Can I get started by sort of, okay, perhaps I need to make another disclaimer. So my brother lives in Edinburgh, but Carla lives in Glasgow, and I'm a big fan of Glasgow. So when I was, bombarding you with Edinburgh, that's not to say that I don't sort of absolutely adore Glasgow. Just a passing mention. Yeah.
I've lived in Edinburgh as well. So I lived in Edinburgh for a year, and I absolutely loved it. Yeah. So yeah.
I don't want to sort of pick up any division or anything. There's a lot of love.
Love them both. Yeah.
As neurodivergent people, we have a lot of energy, and that energy can go places, so long as it doesn't go wasted, right? Yeah. Speaking about wasted energy now, in the workplace, we often feel like there's a massive gap whereby people feel the need to be involved, to be included, but there's an element of accessibility. You and I have actually spoken at length, I believe, about assistive technologies. That can come handy for the example of neurodivergent individuals, but not just for them. I mean, you spoke about the visually impaired, there's people from the deaf community, there's people with mobility sort of issues. I mean, could you, and to an extent that, of course, you feel comfortable and you're ready to sort of disclose, give us some life experience, some examples, some sort of, cases where you felt it or you've witnessed the merits or the needs for support when it comes to assistive technologies?
Yeah, no, happy to do so. And I'll maybe just give a short bit and as concise as possible, a bit of context kind of before that as well. So I should have also said my neurotype is combined type ADHD. I should have said that in the introduction. And I became aware of this probably about 5 years ago. And it was kind of through my love of just being curious and learning more about neurodivergence. To cut a long story short there and bring it into the workplace, understanding myself better has made everything make sense, and it's given me personally the confidence and the kind of higher self-esteem than I've ever had before over the past kind of 5 years. Just understanding myself and understanding that I'm not rubbish, and there are reasons why I've felt constrained, and there's reasons why I've felt things were really difficult, and there's reasons why, as far as I'm concerned, my career hasn't moved at as quick a pace as some of my peers. So having that kind of, I suppose, label, so to speak, has been of real benefit to me and understanding myself. So given that positivity, I spent kind of years, I suppose, up until now, and I'm still doing that, understanding myself and unpicking where I may be masking. However, I'm now at a place in that journey where I'm able to advocate for myself, which I've never been able to do before, and also advocate for people within the neurodivergent community. So advocating for myself is basically me saying what I need to be able to do my job and be the best version of myself, to the best of my ability. It is quite scary, but it is also quite liberating as well, because for the first time in my life, I feel I have a voice. And I suppose going back to that kind of, I suppose, that kind of equity piece and kind of what I need to be able to do my job well, I really kind of had to analyze how I was feeling and what I was doing, I suppose, throughout the day and what I was finding difficult. And I also was able to get a workplace needs assessment as well through my employer. As part of that, I was recommended assistive technology. So yeah, the main kind of crux of that was the assistive technology piece. It didn't really cover the kind of whole sensitivity piece, the sensory piece and everything else, which came at a later date. But if we're just focusing on the assistive technology there, I was recommended a special pen and a read-write tool. That all sounded amazing, first and foremost. When I got read-write, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to change my life. And I was probably naive in the way that I didn't think about if there'd be any challenges in the actual implementation of having the assistive technology. So I was thinking, oh, great, shiny new pen, complete like kind of ADHD person, something new, something exciting, I couldn't wait to get it and use it. And however, so this pen was a live scribe pen, and it was to kind of record my meetings, take notes, and I would then be able to kind of use it in its kind of fancy tech way to be able to refer back to. It would also store my notes in a really kind of structured, kind of systematic way. However, due to GDPR constrictions, I have to tell everybody ahead of every meeting that I am using that pen. And my experience of that was I couldn't remember who I had told and when, and I got really fatigued having to explain myself at the start of every meeting as to why I was using that pen. Now, if anyone listening is neurodivergent or who is disabled and have had to kind of repeatedly ask for what they need or know what they need but not ask for what they need, any little thing like that is wearing. And also it's also, I was thinking about this, it's kind of like a microaggression. So it's another thing that feels like a kind of paper cut or a midgie bite, whereby you're having to use more energy to get what you need and then be able to kind of make what you have work for you. So that kind of whole piece around explaining to everybody in every single meeting just felt exhausting and wearing. Sometimes I wasn't in the right place to kind of talk about it either. And I wasn't maybe in the right place, because I just felt exposed in certain days and I didn't really want to share my life experience, although I am generally quite open about that. So the pen has kind of fallen by the wayside. The read-write tool has been great. However, I had to kind of initiate the process with that whereby I kind of have to do all the legwork to get it kind of signed off and implemented. And I'm currently working with our kind of IT team and how to streamline that process for other people. So I don't have to add the kind of new supplier thing. I don't kind of have to go to IT and say, kind of what have you got, or this is what can this be done? Again, that's all using kind of that excess energy repeatedly that people would think, so what? But actually, if you're doing it all the time, it's wearing. So it's thinking about kind of, I suppose, streamlining all these processes for neurodivergent people where you can. However, GDPR in that respect, with regards to the pen, was a real challenge.
Wow, wow, wow. You've shared, thank you so much, A, for sharing. And secondly, what you've spoken with us about makes absolute sense, and really reflects the experiences of many, many individual members of GAIN, were sharing because they want, A, to contribute to that pool of information and empirical data, if you will, but also they're sharing in order to see some positive change happening. And, by no means does Carla, Vina, or anybody else for this, matter share in order to start a petition to get rid of GDPR requirements. By no means, exactly. But what we're actually trying to say here is, yes, exactly as you said earlier, and you hit the nail on the head there, it was on the money, streamlining all these processes, streamlining so that somehow they're shared, somehow they are stipulated in a statement that basically sort of captures the how do I say, the meaning, the reasoning, the purpose, if you will, of utilizing those assistive technologies rather than bringing the onus back onto the named individual with big spotlights. I mean, often enough, and I don't want to create a paradox here or an oxymoron for that matter, we say neurodivergent people would love to be visible, would love to be seen. But by seeing, we don't mean get the spotlights over our face because we shy away from the spotlight. We're not the people who believe in individualism. On the contrary, we tend to believe on the collective intelligence, on this kind of community of a team that celebrates the unique characteristics of each and everyone. So that streamlining of the processes is very important.
Yeah, and it's not shining the spotlight on the people as in, okay, you have to do the work to get what you need. I mean, wouldn't it? I mean, I just think I start thinking big picture, and I think, actually, wouldn't it be amazing to live in a world where we actually don't need the sticky plaster of special adjustments, because that is what they are. Like, they're a sticky plaster to function in the kind of neurotypical world.
Yeah. Can I just say, possibly, I think, given that we're all in a journey, of course, different stages apply to different people and indeed different organizations, since we're very much focusing on our workplaces in the sector of financial and professional services. I see it as a necessary sort of stop on that sort of, journey, that we go through those adjustments before we go into the kind of non-issue era, that everybody's just accepted for being unique and different. Yeah. So in a way, if you will, and I have to congratulate and thank GAIN as well as the community of individual and corporate members, because they've given me personally the opportunity to digest and process my own expectations and requirements of that system, of that journey. So I'm now becoming so much more comfortable and familiarized with the necessary stepping stone of this process before we hit the more fully liberated, if you will. And I love how you said it's scary, but it's also liberating now that we have a voice, now that we can self-advocate, because now we know who we are. I mean, that learning process never stops. But the diagnosis is something that we ought to give a pat on our shoulder for going through and actually contributing towards getting to know ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I opened this podcast episode by saying that we're now having a call to action. So with your beautifully felt as well as experienced sort of input, can we come to a degree of, a call to action on the streamlining of those processes? I personally would expect an ERG of neurodiversity to play an active role in how that can happen. I would expect HR and the DAI, DI sort of department within HR, most likely, to also play a role, I would expect also the line managers or the more senior people on the table, whatever meeting that might be, to rather than expect X, Y, and Z of an individual who probably directly needs that assistive technology, to step forward and speak on behalf of everybody and on behalf of the organization we represent as the more senior people around the table, and preempt the usage of this technology. Other than those stakeholders, would you see somebody else?
Well, I think you also kind of probably need the leadership kind of buy-in and support as well, don't you? Because especially in well, I work in a consultancy firm, so money is time. So you need to be able to kind of get that leadership buy-in to be able to give people the permission to kind of do this work. And it's exactly what you said. I mean, we've got a meeting at the end of October whereby we have our neurodiversity network group and HR kind of going to be starting to partner to work together, and then we'll bring in IT to create that kind of streamlined process. And the people manager's point is really critical, because you're asking them to step up and be allies, but also support with the implementation. And it's not just, and to really appreciate the permanency of this as well. So it's not just a temporary thing that somebody will have for a couple of weeks and then they'll be better. You know, it's a permanent requirement, and it may as well not even be the right assistive tech or the right kind of support. And it's acknowledging that and reviewing that with the person on a regular basis and being the person that leads that relationship, so it doesn't then fall back on the person with the need. So that's crucial as well.
Spot on. So, recap. Streamlining the processes with regard to the sign-off, but again, the implementation and the practical sort of utilization of such technologies. We need leadership buy-in. I mean, I took for granted, and I do have to ask for self-forgiveness as well as audience forgiveness, and of course, you as the guest, because I don't really, theoretically as well as most importantly, practically think we can ever go into fully functioning ERGs, which, by the way, neurodivergent community acronyms, ERG, the Employee Resource Group, in other words, can function properly without that leadership buy-in, without that leadership presence, at least for that perennial sort of, quarterly meetings. And they cannot sort of exist and produce, or should I say, co-produce. I hear you, what you said, the people concerned need to be part of the process that produces, that creates. They have to co-create. They do not iterate. So there has to be that monitoring effect. There needs to be that loop of feedback. That needs to be this kind of consideration in place that says, what if this is not right? What if that's not effective? Yeah, and time is money. Whether you're a consultant or whether you're an underwriter, it does not matter. We go to work to produce, certain goods and services in a very capitalistic system, right? So it's pretty much measured by money, much as as an economist, I would like to believe in, some green GDP kind of measures, as well as, the ESG and sustainability sort of aspect of things that I believe as a community we are turning our focus towards, as well as that money-making mechanism. So ERG, obviously with the leadership buy-in, line managers, because they are seeing it on the day-to-day basis and they can measure the good impact of that usage. HR, D&I, talent management, IT, because there has to be a functionality element. And when I come to hear myself saying that, that is already an amazing example of how you can already create some cross-functioning teams that even for our core, I'll speak as an insurer, underwriting teams for the big sort of, deal programs, we are not always particularly successful at putting together because we tend to work on P&Ls and silos. So perhaps with the example of assistive technologies, we can bring people and functions together.
Exactly. And I will mention another assistive technology that's actually working best for me just now. And that is because it's being implemented. It's a pilot just now, but it's been implemented firm-wide. And so it's not just neurodivergent people who are in the pilot group. And that's the co-pilot note-taking function. So I just need to say at the beginning, does anybody mind if I use co-pilot? And because more people in the business are rolling that out, I suppose it's starting with that inclusive design for all. So it doesn't just benefit neurodivergent people, it's going to benefit neurotypical people as well, and other people with kind of maybe kind of other disabilities too. So I'm much more comfortable using that than I was the pen.
100%. You remind me, I was very recently recording another podcast episode. Probably it's going to precede this one with you today, but with Laurie Emmons, one of the co-founders of GAIN. Okay, and like you, it's incredible how now we are getting to maximize, to strengthen that voice that says, what do I need to do my job well or better than what you have until now equipped me with? And that's exactly what Laurie was saying. And with that comes an element of inclusive design for all, the so-called universal design, right? And also it comes an element that pulls in and lifts up the people perhaps of an older age group that feel a little bit afraid of new technologies. They feel left out because of these vast advancements. You spoke of co-pilot. AI is a big part of my working life nowadays. I teach AI, Gen AI, and I feel very passionate about AI. And quite often when somebody comes in with a little bit of, blinkers on saying, oh, this is, something that compromises our democracy, I'm thinking, can potentially lead to something that enslaves us. And God forbid we allow ourselves, by simply not knowing enough or by not engaging ourselves, to fall prey of a technology rather than steer it to benefit and optimize our own processes. So being able to pull in together and lift up the older generation who's got vast amounts of experience, but probably they lack the language or the technical capabilities of being able to put that in practice would be a great way for us to strengthen that human capital element.
No, definitely. I completely agree.
Now, one point that you made a mention, and I can actually just expect there will be a very rich area for us to explore, would be equality and equity. I heard you sort of, making a point about that earlier. Can I please ask you to elaborate with us? How do you stand when it comes to equality, equity? Do you see them as interchangeably used for the right or the not so right reasons? What's your views, basically?
What are my views? So my views are you can't have equality unless you have equity. So equity equals fairness and equality. You can't have diversity if you haven't got equity right, because people will then not feel included. People will not stay because they don't feel like they belong. So all your efforts to achieve diversity will be wasted. I also think this maybe gets lost a bit in the DEI space, especially maybe for, I don't like talking about different groups, but people who feel they fall into the majority groups. So they always think of equity, and it is, I suppose, there are greater degrees of equity for certain communities and certain groups. But equity is basically needs, and everybody have different needs. Whether that is flexibility for a certain period of time, or whether that is a lower desk for a permanent period of time. So everybody has a need to be able to perform to their best of their ability. So it's for me, it's trying to help people understand that. And that's where kind of DEI includes everybody. But I think diversity, I wonder with the word diversity, I'm kind of got off on a tangent here, maybe even kind of like leads to a bit of division because people kind of see, or maybe kind of see diversity as kind of a bit of DI kind of greenwashing and yeah, just a bit divisive now, and I don't think that's helped with kind of politics and the media and whatever else. So I try and take it back to equity, and that is just needs, and everybody has a need. So yeah, that's my in-depth kind of and
Carla, that's honestly, I'm so happy to be having this discussion with you. You reminded me so vividly of Microsoft's model of the permanent, temporary, and situational sort of differences that ultimately bring us all pretty much on the same sort of level of needs. And as a society, I often see it that we have the tendency of trying to say, this is for your tribe, this is not for your tribe. This is for your tribe. You could feel that somebody, needs to be doing that for you, but no, you don't belong in this tribe, so you shouldn't be taking part. No, I think if we continue working on different sort of tribes, I feel very much part of the neurodivergent tribe, and I try to support and showcase the tribe's people. But what I'm trying to say, I don't do it by taking us away from the population. I want to do it as part of us being in this human race kind of element, because there's a need for everyone to feel accepted, to feel seen. And the point that I often sort of, get myself to be reminded of is that it's not about the visible things. Most importantly, what gives us the PTSDs, what gives us the traumas, are the invisible elements of our lives. And that is only for something that we know. And sometimes even we push it very much further down inside our psyche, and we don't want even to sort of acknowledge ourselves. So that DNI element is there in the workplace for the use and the benefit of absolutely everyone. And people shouldn't be afraid to show the faces because, oh, I don't belong here, I don't belong there. You belong because you're advocates of a better community. You belong there because you're advocates of a better workplace that actually thrives on utilizing and helping to develop everybody in that.
That's it. And if you get everybody being curious about each other, then everybody learns from each other. And so it doesn't matter what group you're part of or what community you're part of. Yeah, you can kind of learn from each other and fly from each other. And you can feel like you belong, and you can feel in different situations you may need more equity, and you may have more belonging than in other situations. And I suppose that's even linked to privilege. Your privilege will change depending on who you're with and what situation you're with as well, potentially. So
I love that. Your privilege will change depending on the situation. Yes, I can see that. I don't want to sort of, obviously get a chunk of your IP as a consultancy firm, but from your experience, given your pocket of expertise in DNI and your own observations, also as a yourself neurodivergent individual, looking at the future of work, looking into the future, and I'm not wanting to sort of discuss trends per se, but where do you see that sort of that unit of DNI moving? Where do you see the implementation when it comes to the operational departments happening? How can we, again, going back to the call to action, how can we individually, and ideally also collectively, make a contribution towards moving that DNI piece in the operational units, in the day-to-day sort of doings of the organization? What would you advise us?
So I think it's trying to, so people often think of DEI work as a big project at the end of the desk that maybe quite a lot of people would love to get to, but they don't have the time to get to it. I would like people to think, okay, how can I, right, every day, so I'm away to start this project. Okay, so who do I need to get involved in the project? How diverse is that kind of population? Who's missing here? What are their communication needs? So explore all that first and foremost before you start a piece of work or before you start a project. That to me is quite a simple thing to do to ingrain DEI into everything that you do. So find out if your kind of starting point and the people you're working is diverse enough with the skills required. Then take time to find out how they prefer to communicate and even kind of agree some guidelines around that. And even just doing that at the start of a piece of work or a project, or giving that some thought, will help embed DEI within an organization without having to think, oh my goodness, I don't know where to get started in this kind of stuff.
That is gorgeous. And what makes most of the impression to me is that you're probably amongst the very first people on our podcast series who said, how diverse is your team with the skills required? So you speak of diversity as a diversity of skill sets rather than the diversity of the binary female, male, and all these kind of things that, okay, again, as part of the journey, perhaps we started with because we needed a stepping stone, you know, and something to develop from. But clearly your thinking is where we should all be. Diversity is skill sets diversity. And our DNA makes up for that diversity of skills, our socioeconomic background, also our political beliefs, our sexuality, our religion, our gender, or whatever it is, our neurodiversity, you know, or cognitive diversity adds to that skill set diversity, but it's ultimately skill sets we need.
Yeah. It's ensuring that, okay, well, even just looking at, okay, well, what are the skill sets that I need for this project and who has them? And then making sure from that pool of people, you have as diverse a representation as possible within your kind of starting point.
Yeah, beautiful. No, I think personally, speaking of count mean for my skill sets, count mean for my relevance to the project, count mean when I can add my own sort of, you know, cognitive diversity benefits for the overall goodness of this project and for the representation and visibility of the client who wants to see people like them, representing them, right?
Yeah, and there's also a piece about count me in for my potential. So it's even looking at that and thinking, who has the potential to work in this, but maybe isn't quite there yet, and give them that opportunity. So it's that an awareness around that also.
Yeah, skill set's almost something that you define, and then again, some of us, because we are efficiency-driven animals, we put a label, right? So you have a skill set of large data sets or manipulation. Oh, here's your label. Whereas when we speak in potential, it gives a bandwidth of growth, because the potential can be here today, but if you keep on developing, it will be there tomorrow, further away. So it's an element of iteration, growth, and evolution. That's very mindful, it's curious, it's respectful, and gives people, you know, that co-creation element. And this is where we need to go. Diversity, skill sets, potential. Count it in. Carla, what can I say? Thank you very, very much for bringing in your own personal experiences, for sharing with us on your incredible specialization and very sort of well-informed input. And I look forward to engaging with you further in the near future. All the very best.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.